Billionaire husband celebrates his birthday with his mistress, unaware his pregnant wife is watching in tears. From the outside, Tristan Blackwood's life seems dazzling. He's a billionaire entrepreneur with an immaculate penthouse in Manhattan, a reputation for fearless business moves, and a picture-perfect wife, Felicity, who is expecting their first child. But behind the polished Instagram photos and tabloid headlines lies a tangled web of secrets and heartbreak. As the night of his grand birthday party arrives, Tristan does the unthinkable, flaunting his mistress, Eva Foster, right under Felicity's tearful gaze. Unaware that his pregnant wife is watching from the shadows, he toasts champagne with the other woman. The question isn't whether everything will collapse. It's how devastating the fallout will be. Tristan Blackwood was born into privilege, but his life story was far from a typical tale of inherited riches. Yes, his father, Rowan Blackwood, owned an impressive shipping empire headquartered in London, and his mother, Eleanor, came from a renowned family of Swiss bankers. Still, Tristan fought to prove himself beyond the confines of his parents' legacy. From a tender age, he displayed a restless ambition that set him apart from his peers. While other children read bedtime stories, Tristan pored over financial newspapers and memorized global stock indices. At the age of 19, Tristan moved to New York City to attend Columbia University. By his junior year, he was already investing in real estate. By 25, he had launched a cutting-edge technology startup that secured millions in venture capital funding. He rubbed shoulders with the likes of Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates at charity galas, and celebrity gossip columns often ran articles about the tech prince from across the Atlantic. Tristan's world was a blur of success and excitement: private jets, lavish parties at rooftops overlooking Central Park, and art auctions where he'd drop hundreds of thousands of dollars on masterpieces. He was known for showing up at events wearing bespoke suits and gold cufflinks, playing the part of the charismatic mogul with ease. On the surface, Tristan radiated charm and kindness. He regularly donated to philanthropic causes, establishing scholarships in his parents' names. He was deeply loved by those who benefited from his generosity. But for all his success, Tristan couldn't escape the quiet emptiness that crept into his lonely penthouse every night. When the parties ended and the cameras left, a hollow feeling settled in. Despite an endless roster of acquaintances, Tristan lacked meaningful connections. He never quite knew who liked him for who he was, and who was merely dazzled by his wealth. The tabloids fed off his relationship rumors, pairing his name with a rotating cast of socialites and actresses, yet none of those flings lasted. Everything changed the night he met Felicity Hampton at a black tie fundraiser for the Manchester Children's Hospital. Felicity, though of modest background, had a refined elegance that enthralled him. She volunteered with non-profit organizations, dedicating her time to humanitarian projects in impoverished areas around the world. Where Tristan was flashy and often surrounded by noise, Felicity was thoughtful, measured, and quietly confident. Their courtship was swift yet sincere. Within a year, they were married in an exclusive ceremony at a centuries-old family chapel outside London. Tristan felt certain that Felicity was the anchor to steady the turbulence of his fast-paced life. For a while, it seemed he had found genuine happiness, someone who appreciated him beyond his bank account, who saw him as more than a brand or a big name. Someone who wanted to build a family and a future that transcended glittering galas. But all that glitters is not gold. Beneath the surface of their lives lay threads of tension woven by secrets, illusions, and the magnetic allure of forbidden desire. Felicity Hampton Blackwood grew up worlds away from the Blackwoods' opulent lifestyle. The daughter of two public school teachers from upstate New York, Felicity learned the value of hard work and perseverance early on. Every summer, she volunteered at local charities and traveled internationally with non-profit organizations dedicated to humanitarian and environmental causes. Felicity was a woman of empathy, nurtured by her parents to walk in others' shoes and help whenever possible. When she married Tristan, she thought she would carry her altruistic roots into his sphere of wealth. She envisioned philanthropic partnerships, combining Tristan's finances with her passion for social impact. For a while, it worked seamlessly. They embarked on charity initiatives, donated large sums to medical research, and sponsored community libraries in underserved areas. People across New York City admired Felicity's genuine nature, describing her as the philanthropic heart of the Blackwoods. But after a couple of years, Felicity realized that Tristan's commitments often pulled him in multiple directions. Between his business expansions in Tokyo, Dubai, and Rio de Janeiro, he was rarely home, and their time together shrank to fleeting weekends. Loneliness seeped into Felicity's days, but she kept busy with volunteering projects and told herself that Tristan's dedication to his empire was, in a way, also for their shared future. Then came a day when she felt uncharacteristically fatigued. She dismissed it initially as exhaustion from her latest fundraiser. But subtle changes in her body, morning queasiness, heightened sense of smell, and emotional fluctuations eventually nudged her to purchase a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines appeared, bright and unmistakable. Despite her underlying anxiety, Felicity felt a wave of overwhelming joy. This child, she believed, would be the final piece to unite their worlds completely. She hoped that Tristan would feel compelled to slow down, to be more present, both physically and emotionally. It was an opportunity to ground their marriage in deeper commitment. Yet, Felicity sensed a shift in Tristan even before she had the chance to reveal the news. He was more distracted, more prone to secretive phone calls and unexplained late nights. Felicity decided to wait for the perfect moment to tell him about the pregnancy, perhaps a quiet evening when he seemed relaxed. Days passed, and Tristan remained restless. He cancelled a weekend trip to the Hamptons, claiming urgent business matters. His phone lit up with messages from unknown numbers. Late-night dinners turned into cold plates on the dining table. Felicity tried to reassure herself that Tristan was just under pressure. After all, multi-billion-dollar deals didn't close themselves. But her heart ached with the growing suspicion that something else was amiss. Longing to confide in someone, she turned to her childhood friend, Rachel Davis, a pediatric nurse with a heart of gold who had known Felicity since they were 10 years old. Over coffee at a quaint Brooklyn cafe, Felicity finally confessed she was pregnant, yet felt terrified that her marriage was slipping away. Rachel listened intently, reminding her friend that communication was key. Felicity resolved that night to tell Tristan about the baby as soon as possible. She believed that this shared miracle would restore their bond. But unbeknownst to her, Tristan's mind was drifting ever farther, entangled in a dangerous secret that would soon unravel both their lives in ways she could never imagine. Eva Foster was a name that swept through Manhattan's high society circles like a hush in the wind. People spoke of her with a mixture of fascination, envy, and dread. Born in a small town in Florida, Eva moved to the city of dreams with big aspirations. She wasn't from a wealthy family, yet she had an uncanny ability to weave her way into exclusive events and gatherings. Some said she possessed a hypnotic charm. Others claimed she was simply cunning. Whichever it was, Eva cultivated connections with anyone who could further her ambition. She worked briefly as a model, appeared in minor roles on soap operas, and eventually became a fixture at top-tier clubs. Clad in designer dresses, often purchased with the help of friends, she caught the eye of numerous moguls, celebrities, and even a few royals. Eva was a chameleon, adopting the persona that best fit the situation. It was only a matter of time before she set her sights on bigger prey. Tristan Blackwood's philanthropic soiree at the Metropolitan Museum of Art was the perfect hunting ground. The lofty interior, decorated with ancient sculptures and framed Renaissance paintings, was alive with the city's most influential players. The event's official purpose was to raise funds for the Met's new wing, but behind the glimmering champagne glasses and priceless gowns, everyone jockeyed for status. Eva, wearing a backless emerald dress that emphasized her fiery red hair, made her entrance as though she owned the place. She scanned the room until her gaze landed on Tristan, charming smile, commanding posture, and a starched navy suit that fit him perfectly. Immediately, she sensed vulnerability beneath his confident veneer. She lingered at the edges of the crowd until she found an opening to approach him. Their first conversation dripped with flirtation. Eva laughed at all the right moments, lightly grazing her hand on Tristan's arm. She complimented his philanthropic vision, calling him one of the few genuine men in Manhattan's cutthroat elite. Tristan, flattered by her attention, found solace in her presence. She was different from the usual socialites who recognized him only as a trophy. Or so he thought. Over the next few weeks, Eva skillfully inserted herself into Tristan's life. She showed up at the same charity events, feigning coincidence. She emailed him about potential collaborations for a charitable fashion show. In time, Tristan found himself drawn into late-night phone conversations filled with seductive laughter and fleeting confessions about their personal struggles. Eva deftly capitalized on Tristan's loneliness, offering him an escape from his marital anxieties. Tristan, for all his brilliance in business, underestimated how dangerous emotional vulnerability could be. The more he indulged in Eva's flattery, the more secrets he started keeping from Felicity. Soon, clandestine dinners replaced polite business meetings. The swirl of champagne and the allure of her unwavering attention became addictive, overshadowing the guilt that hovered in his conscience. Eva Foster was no passing fling. She had planted herself firmly in the cracks of Tristan's marriage. But while Tristan succumbed to temptation, he remained oblivious to the fact that every secret draws closer to a public reckoning, especially when the stakes are this high. Felicity never considered herself prone to jealousy or paranoia. She trusted Tristan, knowing him to be a principled businessman and a person who valued loyalty. Yet she could not ignore the subtle shifts in his behavior. When Tristan started receiving an unusual number of late-night text messages, it piqued her curiosity. When he disappeared for emergency business dinners that never led to any official announcements, the gnawing feeling in her stomach intensified. One Monday morning, Felicity woke to find Tristan already dressed, murmuring into his phone on their penthouse balcony. He turned toward her and abruptly ended the call. The tension in his jawline and his abrupt hush told her all she needed to know: he was hiding something. She approached him and placed a gentle hand on his arm, inquiring about the nature of the call. Tristan forced a reassuring smile, claiming it was a routine business matter he couldn't yet discuss. Although Felicity yearned to believe him, her intuition screamed otherwise. An uneasy heaviness settled over Felicity's days. She quietly prepared breakfast each morning, waiting for Tristan to join her at the table. Sometimes he would merely grab a piece of toast and leave. Other times he'd rush out with no explanation. In the evenings, Felicity would sit in their spacious living room, reading or trying to finalize her charitable agendas, while Tristan texted incessantly from the other side of the couch. As soon as she tried to peek, he angled his phone away. Determined not to jump to conclusions, Felicity sought advice from Rachel Davis once more. They met in a cozy cafe near Washington Square Park, and Felicity admitted her growing suspicions. Rachel counseled her to speak openly with Tristan, to demand honesty for the sake of their marriage and the baby. Felicity understood the wisdom in Rachel's words, yet a fear she could barely articulate held her back. She worried that confronting Tristan might confirm her worst nightmares. That, or push him away entirely. Her resolve weakened further when she accidentally came across a restaurant receipt in one of Tristan's suit jackets, a receipt for 2 lavish dinners at Le Bernardine. The date coincided with the evening he claimed to be tied up in a board meeting. She recognized the charge on the black Amex card Tristan reserved exclusively for personal indulgences. Her heart pounded as she pictured Tristan sitting under the dim, romantic lighting of Le Bernardine with another woman. She was pregnant, carrying his child, and all he seemed to do was invent excuses to be elsewhere. Late that night, Felicity waited for Tristan to come home. He staggered in well past midnight. The smell of expensive perfume, not Felicity's, clung to his shirt. She stood at the top of the grand spiral staircase, tears pooling in her eyes. He froze when he saw her, muttering a slurred explanation about client dinners running late. Felicity wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but her words lodged in her throat. Instead, she turned away, letting the glistening tears speak volumes. Unknown to her, the next move in this twisted game had already been planned. For in less than a month, Tristan's birthday was approaching, and with it, the perfect storm was about to erupt. Tristan's birthday was always an extravagant affair, coordinated by a small army of event planners, public relations experts, and household staff. This year's festivities would be no exception. His 30th promised to surpass all previous celebrations. The talk among Manhattan's elite revolved around rumored invites to famous actors, key business allies, and influential politicians. Word had it that the party venue would be a luxury yacht docked off the Hudson, complete with a live orchestra, fireworks, and gourmet cuisine. Historically, Felicity played a central role in orchestrating these birthday galas. She would plan the guest list, finalize the decor, and work side by side with Tristan to ensure everything ran flawlessly. But this time, Tristan took a more hands-on approach, much more than usual. He delegated tasks to a flamboyant party coordinator named Samson Duval, leaving Felicity on the periphery. She did her best to contribute, but every time she tried to confirm details, Samson would vaguely reference Mr. Blackwood's private instructions. Felicity felt excluded, an afterthought in what should have been their collective celebration. Behind the scenes, Tristan wrestled with his emotions. While he truly loved Felicity, her unwavering kindness, and the reality of their coming child, he was also captivated by Eva's raw allure. Torn between guilt and excitement, he somehow convinced himself he could manage both worlds. Disturbingly, Eva hinted that she wanted to be part of his birthday celebration. She teased him with texts about a special surprise gift she would deliver in person. The idea of sneaking her in among the crowd spurred both adrenaline and dread. Every so often, Tristan would consider confessing his affair to Felicity. The weight of lying pressed on him, especially as she began looking more fragile with each passing day. He noticed her subdued mood, the apprehension in her eyes, but said nothing. Sometimes he wondered if it was his own fear of losing Felicity, fear of public scandal, fear of shattering the perfect image he had built that silenced him. Meanwhile, Felicity found hope by focusing on the baby growing inside her. Despite her marital heartbreak, she clung to the thought that a new life might bring renewal. She visited Dr. Mona Sable, an obstetrician at Mount Sinai Hospital. Dr. Sable confirmed that the pregnancy was progressing well, but cautioned Felicity to stay calm and reduce stress levels. Felicity laughed nervously, knowing that her current situation was anything but relaxing. Yet the ultrasound images of a tiny heartbeat gave her a flicker of strength she clung to. In a desperate attempt to reclaim some semblance of unity, Felicity proposed to Tristan that they should announce the pregnancy at his birthday party. She pictured sharing the news with their friends and business associates as a sign of celebration and hope. Tristan hesitated. For one, he didn't want to draw attention away from the party's extravagance. For another, he was terrified about how Eva might react. And so, the threads of tension continued to twist. Invitations were sent, the yacht was readied, and the city buzzed with anticipation for the party of the year. With each passing day, Felicity sensed something monumental, either joyous or devastating, was about to happen. Little did she know that when the big night arrived, her worst fears would be eclipsed by an even darker betrayal. A balmy summer breeze swept across the Hudson River as the Blackwood yacht glimmered against the twilight sky. The vessel, aptly named Eternity, was a modern marvel, polished teak decks, sleek silver hull, and an upper deck draped in sparkling fairy lights. Guests arrived by limousine, stepping onto a red carpet that extended to a plush yacht entrance. Photographers clamored at the edges of the dock, eager to capture the who's who of the city. Tristan's reputation as a forward-thinking billionaire ensured that everyone wanted a glimpse of the spectacle. The interior decor, curated by Samson Duval, showcased hundreds of white orchids, gold-trimmed tablecloths, and crystal chandeliers that cast a soft glow over the guests. A live orchestra played classical music with a contemporary twist, setting a festive yet refined tone. Everywhere Felicity looked, she saw faces she recognized: senators, CEOs, fashion icons, and even an A-list actor, rumored to be up for an Oscar this year. Guests milled about, sipping from flutes of vintage champagne and nibbling on canapes crafted by a Michelin-starred chef. Felicity, wearing a flowing sapphire blue gown that discreetly masked her small baby bump, tried her best to appear the radiant hostess. She offered polite smiles, engaged in small talk about philanthropic work, and thanked guests for coming. But behind her composed exterior, her heart hammered with unease. Tristan was nowhere in sight. She had spotted him earlier, greeting foreign investors from Dubai, but he vanished into the crowd shortly afterward. At last, Felicity glimpsed Tristan by the yacht's railing, locked in an animated conversation with a woman whose back was turned. Felicity's breath caught at the sight of Eva's vibrant red hair cascading down her shoulders, instantly recognizable even from behind. She wore a figure-hugging black dress with a diamond necklace that sparkled like a constellation. Tristan seemed tense, gesturing in a way that suggested he was trying to maintain composure. Felicity felt her stomach churn, an overwhelming urge to approach. But just then, a board member from Tristan's company intercepted Felicity to discuss an upcoming stockholders' meeting. Trapped by social niceties, Felicity forced herself to exchange pleasantries. All the while, her eyes couldn't help but dart toward Tristan and Eva. She watched in dismay as Eva touched Tristan's chest, a gesture far too intimate for a casual conversation. Moments later, the orchestra conductor tapped his baton against the stand, and a hush fell over the crowd. Samson Duval took center stage with a microphone in hand, announcing the start of the festivities. Praising Tristan for his philanthropy and vision, the spotlight panned toward Tristan, who stepped forward with a practiced smile. He gave a short speech thanking everyone for attending. He spoke of future business ventures, philanthropic dreams, and how each person in the room played a role in his success. What Tristan did not mention was the child Felicity carried, or the woman quietly lingering behind him. Felicity's heart sank. They had discussed possibly revealing the pregnancy, but Tristan seemed to have conveniently forgotten that plan. As the speech concluded, the crowd erupted into applause. Music resumed, the party revved back up, and fireworks lit the sky in bursts of color that reflected on the water. A swirl of excitement enveloped everyone present. Everyone, that is, except Felicity. She stood, feeling invisible and utterly alone, oblivious to the true depths of betrayal about to unfold. Standing among glittering socialites and the swirl of crystalline laughter, Felicity felt an inexplicable pull to go upstairs, where a more private lounge stretched across the yacht's upper deck. Something in her gut told her that Tristan and Eva were there, hidden from the prying eyes of the party. As the fireworks sparkled overhead, Felicity quietly excused herself and climbed the curving staircase, each step punctuated by her pounding heartbeat. At the top, a soft glow from table lamps revealed plush seating areas arranged for intimate conversation. Felicity scanned the space, her eyes adjusting to the dim light, and there, behind a grand piano, she found them. Tristan and Eva in a corner, partially obscured by gauzy curtains that fluttered in the breeze. They were laughing quietly, heads close together, champagne flutes in hand. Felicity's breath caught in her throat as she took in the sight of Eva resting a manicured hand on Tristan's shoulder, leaning closer to whisper something in his ear. The sparkle in Tristan's eyes, the ease in his body language, all of it felt like a dagger to Felicity's chest. This was a side of him she used to see when they first started dating, open, relaxed, enthralled. Now it was directed toward another woman. Tears blurred Felicity's vision. Her first instinct was to run to spare herself the indignity of confronting them. Yet, she couldn't tear her eyes away. Her chest tightened as she heard Tristan chuckle softly, saw him delicately brush a strand of Eva's hair aside. In that moment, Felicity's heart shattered with a clarity she hadn't known before. The suspicion that had gnawed at her for weeks manifested into undeniable proof. Suddenly, Eva leaned in, pressing her lips softly to Tristan's. The kiss lasted only a moment, but it felt like an eternity to Felicity. Her emotions churned into a caustic cocktail of rage, despair, and betrayal. She had dreamt of surprising Tristan with the news of their unborn child, imagining the two of them hugging each other with tears of joy. Now, she was the one crying alone, watching him share a moment of intimacy with a mistress. Felicity pressed a trembling hand to her lips, stifling the sobs that threatened to break the hush of the upper deck. She backed away, her gown's delicate fabric whispering along the floor. Turning around, she fled down the stairs, leaving behind the glimmering illusions of the evening. She slipped through the crowd unseen, tears streaming silently. In the main lounge, she collided with Henry Caldwell, an old friend of the Blackwood family who had flown in from London. Concern etched his face as he noticed Felicity's tearful eyes. She could manage only a strangled whisper. "I can't stay here any longer, Henry. Please, please help me." Without hesitation, Henry guided her to a waiting car on the dock. From the backseat window, Felicity caught a final glimpse of the yacht, ablaze with lights and laughter she no longer recognized. It was Tristan's birthday, and he was celebrating with another woman while his pregnant wife vanished into the darkness, tears staining her cheeks. Tristan, unaware that Felicity had witnessed his transgression, returned to the lower deck after his secret interlude with Eva. He found the party in full swing, guests crowding around the open bar, the band playing a lively dance number. It wasn't until 20 minutes later that he realized Felicity was missing. Concern bubbled in his chest as he scanned the crowd of elegantly dressed people. She was nowhere to be seen. Summoning Samson Duval, Tristan asked if he had seen Felicity. Samson shrugged, vaguely mentioning that she had disappeared shortly after his speech. A wave of anxiety coursed through Tristan. His mind reeled with possibilities had she found out about Eva. Panic flared as he excused himself from the party and slipped away to call Felicity's phone. No answer. Meanwhile, Henry Caldwell guided a distraught Felicity to the penthouse. She had insisted on returning there, wanting answers, closure, or anything but the horrifying memory of Tristan and Eva together. On the drive over, Henry, who had known Tristan since childhood, gently tried to coax out the full story. Felicity could barely speak. Her tears came in waves, interspersed with quiet whimpers. Upon arriving at the penthouse, Felicity collapsed onto the couch, her trembling hands clutching a throw pillow. Henry sat beside her, placing a comforting arm around her shoulders. He felt an urge to protect her, but also frustration at Tristan for betraying the very values instilled in them by their families. Back on the yacht, Tristan finally received a text from Henry. "Felicity is safe at home. I suggest you come immediately." Relief collided with dread as Tristan read the message. Without explaining to guests, he discreetly left the party, ignoring Eva's inquisitive looks. Within half an hour, he slipped into the penthouse. He found Felicity curled up on the couch, her tear-stained face revealing a heartbreak so profound that he felt physically ill. Henry stood looming by the window, his arms crossed in silent judgment. The air was taut with tension, like the charged atmosphere before a thunderstorm. "Felicity." Tristan began, voice cracking. She lifted her gaze, eyes swimming with pain. "Don't," she whispered. "I saw you with her. I watched you kiss her. On your birthday, Tristan, when I'm carrying your child." Her words slammed into him. You're pregnant?" He stammered, shock and shame flooding his expression. She nodded miserably, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. The realization of what he'd done hit Tristan like a freight train. This was supposed to be a moment of joy, discovering that they were going to have a baby. Instead, he was the cause of Felicity's anguish. Guilt overwhelmed him. He tried to approach, but she stiffened, raising a hand to stop him. Henry cleared his throat. "Tristan, you've crossed a line. Felicity needs space, and you need to think about your priorities. I suggest you find somewhere else to stay tonight." Torn between wanting to comfort Felicity and respecting her evident pain, Tristan slowly nodded. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice trembling. Felicity said nothing, only closed her eyes and turned away. Henry escorted Tristan to the door, leaving him to face the cold reality of his actions on what should have been his happiest night. The next morning, Felicity woke to a silent penthouse. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the residue of heartbreak in every corner. Henry had stayed in the guest room to ensure she wasn't alone. As she sipped hot tea at the marble breakfast bar, Felicity felt hollow, as though her soul had been wrung out overnight. The images of Tristan and Eva were seared into her mind. No amount of tears could wash them away. Henry approached quietly. "How are you feeling?" he asked, voice laced with concern. Felicity's lips tightened into a thin line. "Broken, but I need answers," she replied. "I deserve to know how long this has been happening." Summoning more strength than she thought she possessed, Felicity dialed Tristan's number. He picked up on the first ring. They agreed to meet at a private lounge in the Hotel Pierre, away from paparazzi and curious neighbors. Henry offered to accompany her, but Felicity insisted she needed to face Tristan alone. When she arrived, Tristan was already seated in a secluded booth, a coffee cup untouched in front of him. His usually immaculate appearance showed signs of disarray, disheveled hair, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. The moment he saw Felicity, a surge of remorse contorted his features. He stood, but Felicity raised a hand, signaling for him to remain seated. Without preamble, she asked, "How long?" Tristan hesitated, swallowing hard. "A few months. I met her at a fundraiser. I never meant for it to get this far." Felicity's hands trembled on the table. "And you kept this from me while I was pregnant with our child?" Her voice cracked with incredulity. He nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "I had no idea you were pregnant. And yes, I was careless, selfish. I was so stressed. And Eva, she seemed to understand me in a way." His voice trailed off, ashamed of the pathetic explanation. Emotions churned inside Felicity, anger, sadness, betrayal. She struggled to retain composure. "Do you love her?" she managed to whisper. Tristan breathed unsteadily. "No, Felicity. It was never love. It was a mistake, a terrible, stupid mistake. I love you. You're my wife, the only one I ever truly wanted. The weight of his confession settled around them like a suffocating blanket. Felicity's mind flashed through their wedding day, the vows he spoke, the sincere devotion in his eyes. She remembered how they had promised to build a future grounded in trust. Now she questioned every moment. At that moment, Felicity's phone buzzed with a text from Rachel Davis. I'm sorry to add more stress, but a gossip columnist named Mark Irving is asking about last night's drama at the yacht. Paparazzi have pictures of you leaving in tears. Call me. Felicity's stomach dropped. The personal betrayal she was navigating was about to spill into the public sphere. Tristan reached for her hand, but she recoiled. I can't do this right now. The tabloids are already circling. I need to figure out what to do about us, about the baby, about this entire mess. Felicity stood, her voice trembling with raw pain. She turned to leave, a swirl of conflicting emotions surging within her. Tristan, left behind in the plush booth, felt the crushing weight of the consequences his indiscretion had unleashed. The public revelation of Tristan's rumored infidelity flooded media outlets like wildfire. Blogs, tabloids, and televised gossip segments buzzed with speculation about the billionaire's secret liaison. Photos of Felicity dashing off the yacht in tears circulated online, prompting endless rumours. Was she leaving him for good? Was there a prenuptial agreement? Was the unborn child in jeopardy? As the scandal exploded, Tristan's carefully curated public image began to fracture. Investors grew uneasy, fearing that the personal crisis might destabilize Blackwood Enterprises. Gossip columnists pounced on every scrap of information, scrutinizing Tristan's net worth, corporate deals, and philanthropic endeavors. Worse, Eva Foster seemed all too eager for the limelight, fueling rumors with cryptic social media posts that hinted at a romance for the ages and a man who deserves real passion. Felicity took refuge in Henry Caldwell's townhouse on the Upper East Side, seeking distance from the penthouse that echoed with memories of betrayal. She had never craved privacy more in her life. Her phone constantly buzzed with calls from well-meaning friends and cunning reporters hoping for an exclusive. Rachel Davis visited often, providing counsel and helping Felicity navigate prenatal appointments. If not for the life growing inside her, Felicity might have succumbed completely to despair. Instead, she drew strength from the knowledge that her baby needed her. Tristan, desperate to salvage their marriage, bombarded Felicity with texts and voicemails. Apologies, pleas, promises. He offered to attend counseling, to end things definitively with Eva, to publicly declare his devotion to Felicity. Yet, the more he pressed, the more Felicity recoiled. She remained haunted by the image of him and Eva on the yacht, the casual intimacy that implied a deeper closeness than a mere fling. Meanwhile, Blackwood Enterprises faced a storm of its own. Several major shareholders considered withdrawing investments, worried that the public scandal would taint the company's reputation. Rival moguls circled like vultures, eager to buy up any shares that might go on sale if the stock price dipped. Tristan met with the board members in frantic sessions, assuring them that his personal issues would not affect the business. Though his charm helped pacify some, the sense of impending crisis lingered. One day, Tristan asked Henry Caldwell to set up a private meeting. Tired of the cat-and-mouse chase, Henry relented, thinking it might help Felicity to have clarity about Tristan's intentions. They met at a quiet library that Henry rented out for the afternoon, away from cameras and paparazzi. Tristan showed up with exhaustion etched into his features, humility replacing his former arrogance. "Please, Henry," Tristan began, voice subdued. "I need your help. I can't lose Felicity. She's everything to me and the baby. I need to be a better man." Henry studied him skeptically. "I've known you since we were children, Tristan. I know you're not heartless. But you made a terrible mistake. If you truly want to fix this, it's going to take more than apologies. You need to cut ties with Eva. You need to prove your loyalty day by day, and you need to give Felicity the space she needs." Tristan nodded, tears blurring his vision. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes," he said softly, a genuine urgency in his eyes. But words alone would not suffice. Felicity, grappling with her heartbreak, needed more than promises. She needed tangible proof that Tristan could and would transform for the sake of their future. The air in Manhattan felt tense and electric in the days leading up to Eva Foster's exclusive television interview. Whispers circulated among the city's high society. Tabloids ran provocative headlines, "Eva Foster tells all," and social media buzzed with speculation about what tantalizing secrets Tristan Blackwood's mistress would divulge. From their hideout at Henry Caldwell's townhouse, Felicity watched with mounting dread as her private heartbreak morphed into a public spectacle. Tristan, too, was on edge. Despite his attempts to focus on urgent corporate matters, particularly those involving hostile moves from his rival, James Lockhart, his mind, remained fixated on Eva's impending revelations. He feared she would air intimate details that no amount of media damage control could erase. Worse, he worried about the toll it would take on Felicity, whose health and emotional well-being teetered in a precarious balance, especially given her pregnancy. On a sultry Thursday evening, the much-hyped interview finally aired on one of the country's top-rated entertainment news programs. Under normal circumstances, Felicity would have avoided watching it altogether, but her curiosity, painful as it was, overrode her desire to remain ignorant. She needed to know exactly what Eva planned to say. Henry Caldwell and Rachel Davis joined Felicity in the living room, sitting around a large flat-screen TV. Felicity hugged a throw pillow tight to her chest, her knuckles whitening with tension. The show's host opened with dramatic fanfare, recapping the swirl of controversy surrounding Tristan's yacht birthday party and the rumors of Felicity's abrupt departure that night. Then, after a brief commercial break, Eva Foster stepped onto the studio set. She wore a striking red dress that draped sensuously over her figure. Her auburn hair shimmered under the stage lights, carefully styled to project both glamour and innocence. With a self-assured smile, she slid into a white armchair across from the host, crossing her legs with practiced poise. Initially, Eva spoke about her humble beginnings, a small-town upbringing, moving to New York to chase her dreams, dabbling in modeling, and seeking success through any means necessary. She made sure to come across as sympathetic, even vulnerable, an underdog who had stumbled into circles of wealth and power. Felicity felt her stomach tighten, recognizing the calculated performance. Then the interviewer steered the conversation toward Tristan. The studio audience leaned forward, anticipating salacious details. Eva leaned in as well, her voice adopting a sweet, almost regretful tone. "I never intended to hurt anyone," she cooed. "But sometimes, when two souls connect, it's impossible to resist." Felicity grit her teeth. Each of Eva's words felt like a fresh cut to her already wounded heart. She saw the flicker of dismay cross Henry's face and felt Rachel's comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're suggesting Tristan Blackwood was unhappy in his marriage," the interviewer prompted. "Is that correct?" Eva paused, clearly relishing the moment. "From my perspective, yes," she said softly, tilting her head as if confessing a heartbreaking truth. He wanted someone who could share not just his luxurious lifestyle, but also his passions, his loneliness. "I was there for him. I think Felicity is a wonderful person. I truly do. But Tristan needed more." A flash of anger surged through Felicity. The audacity of Eva painting herself as Tristan's savior made her blood boil. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she silently reminded herself to stay composed for the baby's sake. The interview climaxed when Eva reached beneath her seat and produced a small velvet pouch. "There's been a lot of talk that I was just a fling," she said, her gaze darting confidently to the camera. But this key proves otherwise. She withdrew a gleaming silver key for the cameras, flaunting it between manicured fingers. "It's a key to Tristan's Tribeca condo, our private haven," she proclaimed, voice brimming with a kind of triumphant satisfaction. "He told me it was for us to make a fresh start, away from the chaos of the media, away from, well, everything else in his life." The interviewer's eyes widened in what might have been genuine shock or a carefully rehearsed reaction for maximum drama. Viewers across the country witnessed the moment with bated breath. And in Henry Caldwell's living room, Felicity felt as though she'd been punched in the gut. Her worst fears crystallized in that instant. The affair wasn't just stolen kisses or late-night rendezvous. Eva was suggesting a future, an existence beyond mere dalliance. Felicity clutched her pillow, tears falling unrestrained. She sensed Rachel stiffen beside her, and even calm, composed Henry swore under his breath. Felicity felt an overwhelming urge to hurl the phone across the room, but resisted. Part of her needed Tristan to confirm or deny Eva's claims. If there was any glimmer of truth in Eva's story about planning a new life in Tribeca, Felicity wasn't sure she could bear it. Another part feared yet another web of half-truths designed to placate her. Eva's segment ended, leaving the entertainment show's host breathless and the audience abuzz. A swarm of online commentary erupted within minutes. Hashtags trended on Twitter, hashtag Eva spills all, hashtag Tristan and Eva, hashtag Billionaire scandal. Within an hour, major news outlets picked up the story. Paparazzi staked out the Tribeca condo building, eager to snap photos of whoever might enter or exit. Felicity, now visibly shaking, glanced up at Henry. "I need answers," she said, her voice a quivering whisper. Henry gently took the remote from her and switched off the TV. "You'll get them," he replied softly. "But let's be strategic, Felicity. If Tristan truly wants to salvage whatever is left of your relationship and his reputation, he'll meet you under controlled circumstances, away from the media frenzy." Rachel nodded emphatically. "We can't let Eva's performance push Felicity or the baby into more distress," she said, her protective instincts flaring. A moment later, Felicity's phone rang. Tristan's name lit up the screen. She hesitated, then answered, her voice trembling. "What do you want?" He spoke in rushed tones, desperation evident. "I swear the key is stolen. That condo is for corporate use. You can check the property records. I've never invited her there. She found out about it somehow. Please, meet me so we can talk face to face." Grappling with a mixture of rage and reluctant hope, Felicity agreed to a short meeting. Henry insisted it be at a neutral location where prying eyes wouldn't intrude, and the manager at the Waldorf Astoria offered a discreet private lounge for them. With her heart thudding painfully in her chest, Felicity departed Caldwell's townhouse, escorted by Henry to ensure a swift entry without paparazzi interference. Upon arrival, Felicity found Tristan slumped in a velvet armchair. The moment he spotted her, he sprang to his feet, eyes filled with remorse. She noticed his disheveled appearance, like a man who hadn't slept or shaved in days, and something tugged at her sympathy before she remembered the sting of betrayal. "I'm so sorry," he began, voice cracking. "I can't believe she's done this. Turned everything into a media circus. The condo in Tribeca, yes, it belongs to Blackwood Enterprises, but it's a place we usually keep for visiting executives. Eva must have grabbed a spare key from my office. She must have planned this show all along." Felicity's anger flared. "Do you have any idea how humiliating it is to watch another woman display a key that supposedly represents your plans for a new life? I believed you when you said this affair meant nothing. But that key, it says otherwise. He stepped closer, wanting to hold her hands, but she moved back. Felicity, that's exactly what she wants you to think. She's twisting the truth to hurt us both and to ruin my reputation. His voice dropped to a murmur. But I know it's my fault we even got to this point. I gave her the ammunition. If I hadn't let her into my life at all— Why did you? Felicity whispered, tears in her eyes. Why wasn't I enough? Tears pooled in Tristan's own eyes. You are enough, Felicity. You're more than enough. My stupidity, my selfishness, I can't excuse it. I was in a dark place, overwhelmed by the pressures of the business, and I let myself be seduced by someone who saw that vulnerability. I take full responsibility. Felicity's mind replayed Eva's smug smile, her insinuations that Tristan craved something Felicity couldn't provide. How do I know this isn't just another lie? She asked, her voice fragile. How do I know you're not saving face because you got caught? Tristan pulled out his phone, scrolling through documents and emails. I've got property records, emails from my head of corporate housing. You can see for yourself. His hands shook as he handed the phone over. I should have told you about this place, but it didn't mean anything personal, honestly. Felicity skimmed the evidence, her eyes lingering on official documents listing Blackwood Enterprises as the sole owner. Occupancy logs, too, showed no record of Tristan or Eva staying overnight. Relief warred with heartbreak inside her. If Eva lied about the condo being a fresh start for them, then maybe the entire relationship was orchestrated for reasons Felicity had yet to grasp. Still, the betrayal remained real. Tristan had chosen to be unfaithful, regardless of Eva's manipulations. I believe that Eva set you up, Felicity finally said, handing back the phone. But the fact remains you allowed her into your life, your heart, to the point that she could do this kind of damage. That's on you, Tristan. He nodded, tears slipping free. I know. I'll spend the rest of my life making amends, if that's what it takes. I can't stand the thought of losing you and our child. Let me prove to you that we can rebuild. For a moment, Felicity felt her defenses weakening. She glanced at Henry, who stood discreetly by the door. Their eyes met, and he offered a small nod, as though reminding her that she was in control of this decision. She turned back to Tristan. You've humiliated me, she said softly, fresh tears threatening to overwhelm her. But we are tied by this baby's life, a life that deserves stability, honesty, and love. I'm willing to hear you out to see your actions match your words, but don't expect miracles overnight. A cautious hope glimmered in Tristan's eyes. That's all I ask, he whispered. A chance. Felicity inhaled shakily, trying to keep her emotions in check. The paparazzi might be waiting outside, the tabloids running new headlines by the minute, but for now, she stood at a crossroads. With Henry's support, she walked out of the Waldorf Astoria, leaving Tristan behind to face the consequences of the world he'd upended. Tomorrow, they would fight another battle against the press, against Eva's manipulations, and against their own pain. But for that single evening, Felicity just needed to breathe, to remind herself that no matter how dark it seemed, she still had a choice, to try to salvage her marriage or to walk away for good. And as the city's lights twinkled beneath the night sky, she wasn't entirely sure which path she'd finally choose. Just as Felicity and Tristan were reaching an uneasy truce in the lounge, Rachel Davis burst in, breathless and frantic. Felicity, you need to come with me now, she said, her face pale. At first, Felicity feared some emergency with her pregnancy, but Rachel shook her head in reassurance. Instead, she produced a set of photographs, handed over by a concerned friend in the media industry. The images showed Eva Foster not with Tristan, but with one of Tristan's fiercest business rivals, a venture capitalist named James Lockhart. Known for his ruthless tactics, Lockhart had a history of trying to undermine Blackwood Enterprises. In the pictures, Eva and Lockhart appeared to be discussing something over dinner, reviewing documents, then shaking hands. The timestamps dated back weeks before Eva's interview. Tristan's eyes widened in realization. She was collaborating with Lockhart to sabotage me, he muttered, horror creeping into his voice. The puzzle pieces began to fall into place. Eva had aimed to stir up enough scandal to destabilize Tristan's personal and professional life. Perhaps Lockhart stood to gain financially if Blackwood Enterprises' shares plummeted, or if Tristan was forced to step down from leadership. Felicity flipped through the photos, her emotions swirling. Anger surged, not only at Eva, but also at Tristan for being so gullible. At the same time, she felt a strange sense of relief. The affair was real, yes, but it appeared Eva's motivations had been more manipulative than Felicity originally imagined. Still, the betrayal by Tristan stung. Could she ever fully forgive him? Breaking the tense silence, Rachel said, "We've just discovered this. My friend in the press said Lockhart is planning a hostile move. Tristan, your board needs to hear this immediately." Tristan nodded, determination hardening his features. He turned to Felicity. "I know I don't deserve your help, but please, let's fight this together. Eva manipulated me, yes, but I take responsibility for my weakness. I want to keep our family intact. I'll do whatever it takes." Felicity hesitated, recalling the countless nights she spent alone, the tears she shed over his betrayal. But then she pictured their baby's ultrasound, the tiny fluttering heartbeat. Their child would soon inherit a legacy, for better or worse. Could Felicity find it in her heart to attempt a reconciliation, if not for Tristan alone, then for the sake of giving their child both parents in a more stable life? Taking a shaky breath, Felicity looked into Tristan's pleading eyes. "I won't promise you immediate forgiveness," she said softly, voice quivering, "but I'll stand by you to protect our future. You must earn my trust back." Tristan, step by step, no more secrets. A wave of relief washed over his face. He nodded, tears glimmering. "I swear, Felicity, no more secrets." In the days that followed, Tristan and Felicity presented the incriminating photos to Blackwood Enterprises' board. Lockhart's plot was exposed, staving off his hostile takeover attempt. Eva, her plan revealed, fled the spotlight, leaving behind a storm of controversy that would likely haunt her for years. Meanwhile, in the privacy of their penthouse, Tristan and Felicity slowly began to mend their fragile bond. Long conversations, tearful confessions, and therapy sessions replaced the showy galas and extravagant shopping sprees. Felicity moved back home, albeit with guarded optimism. She concentrated on her health and the baby. Tristan, for his part, cut off all ties with Eva, including a restraining order if she ever attempted more sabotage. Only time would tell if love and determination could truly heal the wounds of betrayal. Yet for the first time since that fateful birthday night, Felicity found a glimmer of hope flickering in her heart. The road ahead was steep, but at least they were traveling it together, one day, one promise, one heartfelt apology at a time. Thank you for joining me on this tumultuous journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. The story of Tristan, Felicity, and Eva reminds us how even the most glamorous lives can be shaken by secrets and lies, and how, in the end, it's the choices we make after the storm that truly define who we are. Will Tristan and Felicity's fragile hope blossom into a strengthened bond? Can trust be fully restored once it's broken? These questions linger, prompting us to reflect on our own relationships and the power of forgiveness. If this drama-filled tale captivated you, don't forget to hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to this channel for more riveting stories that delve into the complexities of the human heart. Every like, share, and subscription supports our continued storytelling, and we can't wait to bring you more. Stay tuned.